Hello, everybody. Welcome to Oxford News This Week. I'm Terry Stiles with my buddy Jim Hughes.
And I'm with Terry Stiles, another edition of Oxford News This Week.
We're at it again. And this week, Oxford School considers sinking fund. The DDA votes on demolition of a local business and a moment of hope in Hannah's Garden. All that and more. The Oxford News begins right now. Okay, swimmers alert, stay aware. The Oakland County Health Department has informed the village of Oxford that Round Lake test results for E. coli are positive. Scripter Beach must close until the test results show levels low enough for safe swimming. The Department of Public Works is set to install signs at the park informing visitors of the closure. Once the levels have lowered enough to resume swimming, the village will remove the mandated closure signs. The Oakland County Health Department tests the beach weekly throughout the summer. To look up monitoring results for the Michigan beaches, visit mienviro.michigan.gov website. Jim?
The Oxford EDA's Board of Directors recently voted unanimously to approve 2 grants. The first grant, worth up to $1,500, will go to a sign for the summer Sundays. The second grant was a $7,500 blighted structure grant for Vinnie's Brunch. DDA Executive Director Kimberly Smith said the owners of Vinnie's Brunch met with her and the village manager Joe Medore to discuss the grant. It would be used to demolish the building at 18 South Washington Street. According to Smith, the owners are working with a contractor to move forward with the demolition. A letter submitted by the owners estimates demolition will run between $60,000 to $80,000. The grant applicants, Vision and Lush Jaka, say the structure has become a safety concern and it detracts from the aesthetic appeal of the downtown area. Funds will not be given to the application until the build permits are issued and then they are completed. Terry.
We'll keep an eye on that. And another thing we'll keep an eye on, Oxford Community Schools is considering a sinking fund for next school year. At the final school board meeting of last month, Oxford Assistant Superintendent of Business and Operations, John Fitzgerald, gave the board an overview of proposal which could potentially be put on the ballot for November's 4th election. The district's last sinking fund expired in December of 2022. According to Fitzgerald, a sinking fund could generate about $1 million every year. Fitzgerald said the money would go directly to working on and repairing facilities, making sure they're operating safely. The sinking fund would add onto the state aid funding and the local operating non-homestead millage. Since the high school is 25 years old, Fitzgerald says the district is looking at a lot of upcoming work. With a $0.75 mil levy, the fund would generate about $1.24 million annually, costing the average household about $150 a year. The issue will come back for a ballot language discussion and first reading at the June 10th board meeting. That's the school board meeting. I cannot believe that school's 25 years old. Jim, your turn.
The Michigan Supreme Court crushed an appeal for the families and the victims of the Oxford tragedy. The legal pursuit hoped to hold officials accountable. The family's legal team had challenged the fundamental principle of governmental immunity itself. Michigan Supreme Court declined to hear their appeal against the school district, effectively ending any legal pursuit. The decision upholds the Michigan Court of Appeals ruling from September, which held that Oxford Community Schools and its employees are protected by governmental immunity. Parents Buckmere said that the ruling was horrible and that there is no change coming out of the tragedy. Oxford District Attorney Tim Mullins says employees should not be held responsible for the criminal acts of independent third parties, a position similar to that of the Supreme Court on the question of immunity. Now, with no legal options left to turn to, the families and their representatives are turning to legislative solutions. The Oxford Community Schools acknowledged the decision might, quote, bring renewed emotion for many in our community, end quote, and reminded the community that support and recovery resources are available on the district webpage. Terry.
Well, hopefully to soften the blow, and thankfully there's a moment of hope for these families, hundreds of people gathered for the ribbon cutting and opening ceremony for Hannah's Garden, a year-long labor of love to honor the memory of the 4 students lost at the Oxford tragedy. Plans for the garden first began in the spring of 2022, and over 3 years, volunteers have raised money for the garden, local contractors have donated their labor, and the garden has bloomed thanks to grants and other support from the community. From an original plan of a bench tree and flowers have grown into full garden blossoming and symbolism. Blueberry bushes represented the giving nature of Tate Mare. Butterfly figurines fly past for Madison Baldwin. Bushes sprout to feed pollinators for Justin Schilling. And for Hannah, flowers to honor her name's Japanese meaning, flushed with purple, her favorite color. Crushed stone paths, shaded benches, and trickling water give visitors a space to reflect, heal, and honor the 4 students. Stephen St. Juliana, Hannah's father, asked the crowd to take steps beyond the garden, including joining the victims' families and advocating for change to prevent future school violence. He also said he hopes to make the garden a centerpiece for the community, and it sure has started that way. Jim?
An Oxford woman has passed away after a head-on collision with the 26-year-old woman who was driving in the southbound in the northbound lane of Baldwin Road near Seymour Lake Road at midnight in Brandon Township. A 16-year-old Clarkston male was driving northbound on Baldwin Road, the right direction. His Hummer H3 was struck by a Chevrolet HH3, driven by the Oxford woman, causing a head-on crash. The Hummer driver was wearing a seatbelt and was transported to the hospital with minor injuries. The Oxford woman was not wearing a seatbelt. She was transported to the hospital where she later died from her injuries. The Oakland County Sheriff's Office Crash Reconstruction Unit still investigating this crash and will have more after it's resolved. Terry.
The Addison Township Public Library is expanding, and it now has a little extra help. The library has been awarded a Libraries Transforming Communities grant from the American Library Association, or the ALA. The $10,000 grant is part of an initiative to provide community engagement and accessibility resources to small and rural libraries. The goal is to help those libraries better serve patrons with disabilities. The award will help the library design a central service point at the new library building across the street. Library Director Dawn Alcerelli said that thanks to the grant, accessible design can be built into the new library from the outset. She also said the grant will allow the library to get to know the residents with disabilities better, adding that the staff wants to ensure they feel comfortable and welcome. The library is researching residents with physical or sensory disabilities who would like to participate in conversations about how best to use that space. Those interested in getting involved can contact Alcerelli at 248-628-7180. What a great idea. Jim?
In our Behind the Lens segment this week, another special ceremony here in Oxford. The community schools recently celebrated the Oxford Bridges High School and Oxford Virtual Academy graduating class. 13 incredible students from Bridges and 77 from the OVA earned their degrees, supported by their smiling faces and staff, friends, and family. Congratulations to graduates. We can't wait to see what you can do. Congratulations again to all the graduates out there as they mark their endeavor, and it's always a new way of moving on, right?
Yes, it is. Sorry about that. I all of a sudden lost my computer.
Oh, she was over there looking at the computer.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's really pretty amazing. I'm so proud of the students in Oxford. They're amazing kids.
Oh yeah, definitely been through a lot. And again, as I
Yep.
say, we were talking about the garden that was in your story there.
Yeah.
It's yes, maybe a time to head out and take a look at that and do some
Yeah.
reflection. You know,
Yeah.
you got to feel blessed that
Yes.
that's there. I mean, okay, the to get there it took a long time, and
Sure did.
we say prayers for those people that were affected by that.
Absolutely, and thanks to all the people that made it happen. It was quite a ceremony.
I think Fort County Community, another thing
Yep,
they took,
another one. Yep.
just one of the many things that organization does for our community. Anyways, that's gonna get us to the next segment of our newscast, and we know that involves Dave Kenny. I know he'll have Auto Talk. He also has Science in the News. I'll have a brief look at sports. Terry and I'll be back at the end of the newscast. Terry has the last story, as she always does. We'll be right back. You're watching Oxford News This Week.
We all have a type.
Maybe you know what your type is.
Maybe you don't.
But you have one. Am I your type?
You can be the type to save lives.
Welcome to this edition of Auto Talk. I'm Dave Kenny, and these stories are taken from Automotive News, and they're all recalls. In our first recall, Ford Motor Company is recalling 556,000 vehicles in the U.S. for two problems, the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration said in a pair of reports on May 27th. One recall covers over 492,000 utility vehicles that may experience the detachment of a B-pillar trim. The second covers almost 64,000 pickups because of loose or dislodged passenger airbag disabled indicators. The recall relating to the B-pillar trim covers 2016 to 17 Ford Explorers, NHTSA said. Only 4% of those vehicles are expected to be impacted. In affected vehicles, the B-pillar trim may become detached, creating a hazard for surrounding drivers and increasing the risk of a crash. Ford issued a technical service bulletin to dealers regarding loose driver's side B-pillar trim in 2019, NHTSA said. The automaker did not think this posed a safety risk, but opened an investigation in March after receiving customer complaints from NHTSA. The automaker is aware of 1,482 warranty claims related to the defect, and dealers were notified of the recall on May 27th. Owners can expect to be notified June 9th through the 13th. Owners will receive another letter once a remedy is developed. And the recall relating to faulty passenger airbag disabled indicators covers the 2025 Ford Maverick. The indicator may be loose or dislodged inside the instrument panel. Ford estimates about half the vehicles will be affected. Ford became aware of the issue during a pre-delivery inspection in April, NHTSA said. The automaker is aware of one warranty claim related to the defect. Owners can expect to be notified June 9th through the 13th. Dealers who were notified of the recall on May 23rd will install retaining clips for the indicator free of charge after owners receive a second letter September 22nd to the 26th. And in our next story, it's still Ford. Ford Motor Company is recalling 29,500 electric trucks in the U.S. because of the risk of a detached control arm, the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration said in a May 31st report. The recall covers the 2024 to 25 F-150 Lightning battery electric truck. The vehicle, a key part of Ford's electrification strategy, has been the subject of 11 U.S. recalls since it was launched in 2022, including the latest callback according to NHTSA data. Transport Canada posted a similar recall affecting 11,400 vehicles of the same trucks in Canada. Transport Canada's recall also affects pickups from the 2023 model year. In affected vehicles, the upper control arm ball joint was tightened incorrectly, allowing the front upper control arm to separate from the knuckle assembly, NHTSA said. If the control arm becomes detached, drivers can experience loss of directional control, increasing the risk of a crash. Ford became aware of the defect following a complaint from a customer last March, NHTSA said. The automaker is aware of one property damage claim related to a detached control arm. Owners of affected vehicles can take their cars to a dealer for inspection, where the ball joint and knuckle will be inspected and replaced as needed. Ford will reimburse customers who have already had repairs to solve the problem, NHTSA said. Dealers were notified of the defect on May 27th. Owners of the affected vehicles are set to be notified June 9th through the 13th. Well, that's it for this edition of Auto Talk. I'm Dave Kenny. Stay tuned to Oxford Community Television.
Hi, I'm Peyton Manning, and I'm partnering with the American Red Cross this year to tackle blood shortages. Giving blood's important because every 2 seconds, someone actually needs blood, and unfortunately, only like 3% of the U.S. population donates. So we have to step up to give and to make sure there's plenty of blood available for those in need. Visit redcrossblood.org to get in the game and make an appointment to give.
What is dementia? Is it the same as Alzheimer's? What is vascular dementia, Lewy body, FTD, TBI, and CTE? If someone has memory loss, does that mean they have dementia? Millions of Americans ask these questions every day. I did too, and I learned. My wife Ginny developed dementia. I didn't know what to do or what was coming next. I'm Kevin Jameson, volunteer and president of the Dementia Society of America. I'm excited to offer you a free guide to understanding dementia. It's filled with facts about dementia, care planning, how doctors can help, and ways to keep your brain as healthy as possible. The Dementia Society of America is a national nonprofit, and we're ready to answer your questions. You want to live life to the fullest. I know that. Ginny did too, and I'm confident that we can help. Get your copy of the guide. Go to 1-800-DEMENTIA.org or call 1-800-DEMENTIA. Thank you.
Welcome back to Oxford News this week. As we always look for sports to be covered over the summer months, we just want to remind you a lot of great sporting activity happening out at Seymour Lake Park. Head on out on any given night. You can see the senior softball, which we cover on Wednesdays. Also the ladies softball, all out on Seymour Lake Park. Again, check the Parks and Rec schedule for athletic competition out here. In other words, we also have the Major League Baseball announcing the 2025 All-Star Ballot now open for you to vote on. So now it's time for Tiger fans alike to make sure their favorites move on. The All-Star Ballot determines whether players will eventually get to play at the Major League Baseball All-Star Game. Fans can vote 5 times a day between now and June 26. To fill out the ballot, all you need to do is pick one player for each league, and for each position, each Major League Ball club nominated one player of its infield position, 3 players for the outfield, and 1 player for the designated hitter spot. Fans can vote on these top players in each position or write their own in. The Detroit Tigers nominees include some of the familiar faces that you enjoy to watch: Spencer Torkelson, Zach McKinstry, Colt Keith. On June 30th, fans will then have the opportunity to vote for the starters. Visit MLB.com/all-star/ballot to vote. Once again, We are there. Make sure to log on if you like any of those Tigers. Let's get them in the lineup for the All-Star game. And again, I urge you to check out the Parks and Rec website, as they have all the continued athletic and athletics games going on out here at the Seymour Lake Park. Easy for me to say. Anyways, that's going to wrap it up. Dave Kenny's got another segment coming up. Terry Stiles, she has the last story today. She's going to be talking about a superhero. We'll be back with more on Oxford News This Week.
Welcome to Science in the News. I'm Dave Kenny, and this story is taken from New Scientist. Electric signals from power lines discourage bees from landing on nearby flowers, and there is a growing concern that this so-called electric pollution could be causing widespread disruption to insect behavior. Alongside bumblebees, honeybees have been shown to detect and respond to airborne electric fields, which are often caused by static electricity in the natural world, detected through hairs or antennae. Research has shown that honeybees use electroreception as a form of communication, and both honeybees and bumblebees are thought to use it to locate nectar-rich flowers. Other insects have also been shown to make use of these electric fields. Caterpillars, for example, use changes in airborne electric fields to spot when a predatory wasp is approaching. But to date, little is known about how human-made electricity impacts this natural behavior among pollinators. To investigate, Liam O'Reilly at the University of Bristol in the UK and his colleagues tested how Western honeybee behavior changed when different kinds of electric fields were applied to the air around a catmint plant, I think that may be catnip, but in an urban meadow in Bristol. They created an electric field using a weak alternating current, simulating the environments of 60 to 100 meters from a high voltage mains power line for 2 hours. This reduced honeybee landings on the affected plant by 71% compared with a nearby control plant. The first 10 minutes of the alternating current treatment was a really dramatic difference. There were far fewer landings than the control, says O'Reilly. Alternating current is just completely alien to bees. Landings did increase on the treatment plant as the trial continued, but never reached control levels, O'Reilly notes. In another test, the team created an electric field using direct current, like the power generated by a battery, which reduced bee landings by 53% compared with the control. The findings have worrying implications for honeybees, a key pollinator, especially given the ubiquity of electricity infrastructure in most nations. Its estimates suggest that in the UK alone, there are almost 70,000 square kilometers of land on which bee colonies forage in the range of high voltage transmission lines. It's only a small study. It's one species of pollinator, O'Reilly says. But given previous research looking at honeybees and bumblebees, a trend of concerning results is emerging, he says. Other studies have shown that honeybee behavior is affected by human-made electromagnetic fields, but this is the first to isolate the impact of electricity, says Sam England at the Museum of Natural History Berlin in Germany. The study confirms a lot of the suspicions we had already about these power lines being able to affect insect behavior, he says. England says the response of honeybees is likely to be similar in regions around the world and warns other insects are likely to be impacted by human-made electric fields in similar ways. If I were a betting man, I would probably put money on the fact that many more species in many other ecological contexts are also having their natural behaviors interfered with or modified by the electricity coming from power lines, he says. Most research is needed, or more research is needed, to determine how power lines and other electric infrastructure are changing insect behavior in real-world settings, says O'Reilly, including assessing whether behavior is altered over the long term. But options for protecting insects from airborne electric fields are likely to be limited. Burying power lines or adding extra installation to cables might help, but such measures are expensive. In the short term, if you're someone who has an apiary, it would probably be better if you keep your apiaries further from power infrastructure, says O'Reilly. I think you'd have happier bees. What a buzz. Well, that's it for this edition of Science in the News. I'm Dave Kenny.
If you need to do something to feel okay to drive, you're not okay to drive. Don't drive buzzed.
And in our last story of the week, a student superhero. The Oxford Fire Department recently honored Oxford High School student Reagan Donaldson for her quick thinking and bravery during a recent emergency. When she was leaving a friend's house, Donaldson noticed what appeared to be a fire. Immediately asking her friend to stop the car, she discovered that the landscape mulch in front of a home had ignited and was beginning to spread. She ran to the porch, alerted the homeowners, and was able to extinguish the flames with a hose. Her swift action prevented what could have been serious fire damage to the home and property. To acknowledge her outstanding citizenship, Fire Chief Matt Majestic and Recruitment and Retention Firefighter Kelly Kilgore presented Reagan with a certificate of recognition, an Oxford Fire Department Challenge coin, and one of the Chief's Challenge coins. Congratulations to you. You're a superstar this week.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
telling
I love
you.
the last story. It always leaves a little bit of a bright spot
Yeah,
in our week ahead.
Uplifting, yeah.
Okay, in the segment we don't label, but we love to hear about. Terry Stiles, what are you reading or listening to this week?
Into Grisham this.
Oh, so you both see those other two ones. How'd that management book go?
Oh well, it was a little dry, so
Did you?
I moved on.
So you
And I went back to
you
the
pulled
fun
the
stuff.
tape, huh?
I'm reading 2 books actually, and I'm going to give my good friend of mine a little boost. She's a Lake Orion graduate, and she decided to retire and go on the road. So she bought a van. She outfitted it to be able to camp in it.
Nice.
And at the same time, she wrote a book about her adventures.
Oh, wow.
And so I'm reading Grisham, or I'm listening to a Grisham novel, and also reading her book. And she actually is going to come to the studio and do the audio portion. So her book is available
She's gonna narrate.
on Amazon. And yep, she's going to narrate it. And that will be available as a download on Amazon. And the name of the book, in case you're curious, it's called You'll Know It When You See It.
Hey, I'll know it when I see it.
You will. It's
I want a free copy.
I'll bring it in and show you.
We'll know it
So
then.
She will come here in June or July and record that audio. So we will be published, OCTV will be published on Amazon along with Judith.
All right, that's good
Isn't that
stuff.
cool?
We're
Yeah,
broadening our
Yep,
horizons,
we do
right?
a lot of cool stuff here at OCTV.
We do.
Speaking of that, you can watch us where?
Well, yes,
segue,
we are
right?
available for you at any time, at any given moment. OCTV can be viewed on Spectrum Charter Channel 191, Channel 99 on that ATT Uber system. Check us out on YouTube, Facebook, Rumble, the Amazon Fire Stick, and Roku, despite them not paying their fees. We're still there
I
for them,
know.
right?
Yeah.
Come on, you streamers,
talk
jump
about
on
that.
board.
Yep.
That's me editorializing. If you have a show idea and like to be part of this little collective, contact our office at OCTV. Our office number is 248-628-9658. A very special thank you to producer, director Kyle Snage, news writer extraordinaire Allison Miller, station manager Terry Stiles. For everyone here at OCTV, yes, I'm Terry's buddy, Jim Hughes. Hoping you have a safe week. I invite you back next time when, again, we will take a look at Oxford News this week.